I basically spread myself really thin, and I just tried everything for a little while, and then nothing would work, and I ended up wasting all this money and effort. So I think definitely if you're gonna choose marketing, a type of marketing, choose the one that you like best, because they'll all eventually work, but you have to keep at it. Like, it takes years sometimes for postcards or farms to work.
Jamie has been crushing it in Beverly Hills and LA, and she's a top 1% realtor and named 30 under 30 realtors for 2017, and is here to share all of her insight and wisdom with you so you can succeed as a realtor yourself. Jamie, thank you so much for joining me in a beautiful, looks like you're on the hills here in Los Angeles.
I'm in one of my listings right now. I just had an appraisal, and I'm in downtown LA, but I have a great view here of the hills in the back.
It looks like a beautiful day in California after, I know you've got a lot of rain. I was up in Santa Monica in March, and it was like miserable. It was crazy.
Oh my God, we got so much rain this year. I think it's one of the most historically one of the most rainy years for, I think, like 20 or 30 years. So it was crazy. I mean, LA basically like shuts down when it rains. No one knows how to drive and no one goes out. So it's kind of funny.
Coming from Florida, where it's pretty much hurricanes and thunderstorms, and then going to LA, where literally people are wondering, what is this water that's coming from the sky, even though it's a trickle, and they freak out, is hilarious. But I do love LA, and you're in one of the most competitive real estate markets in the country, if not the world, where everyone and anyone is a model, actor, personal trainer, and realtor, and to find a full-time realtor that is crushing it is pretty rare. So I want you to take us back. What got you started in real estate?
Yeah, so I actually got my real estate license when I was doing my last year of my undergrad at UCLA. The original plan was to go to law school, and I had just finished all my LSATs and applications, and, you know, last semester, senior years, pretty laid back, had a few classes left, and I had some extra time on my hands. So I thought, I'm going to get my real estate license. I thought it was going to be kind of just for fun. And I thought maybe over the summer before law school starts, I can, you know, make a little money. And then if law school's not too busy, I might even be able to do it on the side. So I got my real estate license, and I kind of just dove right into it. I interviewed with a couple different companies, and then I chose Rodeo Realty. I just really liked the support that they gave me. It's kind of an interesting company because it's privately owned, but it's still very large. There's over 2,000 agents. So you kind of get the support of a large company without the corporate, some of the corporate nonsense that you have to deal with. So I chose that company, and I kind of just dove straight into it. And while I was still at school at UCLA, I sold a couple of properties. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. You know, at the time being a student, I had probably $100 in my bank account.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is what it's like to make money. So I was still planning to go to law school at the time, and I had committed and everything. But then literally probably a couple weeks before law school started, I just changed my mind, and I decided I'm not going. So my parents weren't that happy about it at the time, but I kind of just wanted to go full time, and I love doing it. So I was like, I'm just going to do this for a while. If I change my mind later, I can always go back later. So that's kind of how it all started.
Wow, it sounds like a beautiful story. And then you get to avoid being a lawyer, which sounds like the highlight of it. But take us back to the first listing or the first transaction you did, because a lot of new realtors, they're just wanting to get that first sale. And it seems like this insurmountable obstacle because they are brand new, they don't have the experience. And then someone with $1 million house would choose you because you have the experience, you have the knowledge. When you're starting out, how do you overcome being so fresh?
Yeah. Well, my very, very first transaction was with a buyer. I think when you're starting out, it is easier to work with buyers than sellers. They're a little bit more open to it. As a seller, you want someone who's very experienced and has a track record in your building, or in your building or your neighborhood. So my very first transaction was a very small transaction for Los Angeles. It was like 230 something thousand. And it was a buyer for a condo, you know, a first time home buyer. You know, he had no idea even where to look. He was looking literally everywhere from Long Beach all the way to like the valley, huge radius. You know, we had no idea, but he had a very small budget. So I was like, all right, I'll work with anyone. So I just showed him all the properties that I could find in that price range in like a 50-mile radius. And we went and started looking at all of them. I was like, I'm determined to do this. So even though I was a newer agent, he trusted me. I got him, all the information that he needed. If he asked me a question that I didn't know, I didn't like make anything up. I would just say, I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me find out and I'll get right back to you. And I think just providing like really good service, being really quick to respond, and doing your best to help them in every way that you can is like all you can really do. And I don't think he wasn't the first person I ever showed a property to, but he was the first person who trusted me to close a transaction. So I think, sometimes starting off with a lower price point or starting with buyers is great for new agents.
Well, a couple things for people that don't live in LA, that aren't familiar with the city. I spent 2 years in LA, and I'll actually be moving back this summer or fall. A 50-mile radius is pretty much a 3-hour radius.
Exactly.
$230,000 is nothing in LA, but it might buy you a mansion in Nebraska. So if you're in Nebraska right now, understand that 230 is like a third of a studio in downtown. It's
exactly.
Especially in this market. It's pretty much what that couch is taking up behind Jamie. That is $230,000. So
exactly.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of competition. But of course, in those markets like San Francisco, New York, Miami, LA, the payoff is really big. So you got your first client or two. And then what happened after there? You were starting to gain some confidence. You're gaining some knowledge. What happened in the coming months?
Yeah, so I started gaining some confident knowledge, track record. I just started marketing myself in like every way possible, but I did a lot of marketing online. So I think when I first started 7 years ago, it was like in 2012, agents weren't as big on the online marketing. Most of them were still doing more of the traditional methods of marketing. Zillow, Truly were just starting to, become big. And my office manager, he would always tell me, Jamie, you have to go hit the streets. You can't sell properties from behind the computer. Go door knocking, go cold calling. So, I did some of those things. And of course, those things work, but it wasn't my favorite method of prospecting. I don't like intruding on people's private space and, running around the streets, especially as a young woman. So I just started doing a lot of marketing online. So I did, Truly, Zillow, I did Facebook, Instagram, and I built a huge social media presence. And I started getting a lot of leads online. And so that's kind of where I started getting a lot more clients. And also because I'm Chinese and I speak Mandarin, there's a lot of Chinese buyers coming to Los Angeles to purchase property. So that was really helpful for me. And I work with a lot of those international clients as well.
How did you attract the Chinese buyers? Is that word of mouth at first, or were you tailoring your marketing towards those investors?
Basically, a lot of them were through online marketing. They would just basically search online like Chinese speaking agent, and there's not a whole lot of them in the part of Los Angeles that I work in the San Gabriel Valley, Arcadia, those areas. Like, there's so many Chinese agents from the west side where I work. There's not as many. So I kind of became known as like the Chinese speaking agent on the west side. So people were able to find me online, or they just saw my name on my advertisements and they saw that I had a Chinese last name, and they would just reach out to me just because having that cultural, similarity is kind of helpful sometimes.
Absolutely. You bridge the gap. So you not only the language, but you understand where their mindset is, what it's like coming from China, or at least what they're going through that, for me, example, I wouldn't be able to understand. Maybe it's just certain cultural dynamics that I wouldn't get while they would, or you would. So take us back. What's the big mistake that you make?
So yeah, that's a really good question. People never ask that, right? They always ask, oh, what did you do to get your clients? But it's always good to learn from people's mistakes. So I think the big mistake that I learned is that, every type of prospecting and marketing will work if you continue at it and, keep your mind at it, and you can't expect it to work in a month or two. So when I first started, I would do things, I would send one postcard, and then I'd do like a bus bench, and then fly over here, and then a shopping cart ad, and then like, I'd wait like 1 month or 2 months. I'd be like, well, I can't afford it anymore. That's it. And I'd basically spread myself really thin, and I just tried everything for a little while, and then nothing would work. And I ended up wasting all this money and effort. So I think definitely if you're going to choose marketing, a type of marketing, choose the one that you like best, because they'll all eventually work, but you have to keep at it. Like, it takes years sometimes for postcards or farms to work. So you can't just do one over here and one over there.
Well, see, that sounds scary, because at what point do you say this isn't working, or I need to change my marketing?
Right.
And what point do you say, am I just being too short-sighted? If you were to start again and you weren't seeing results in the type of marketing, just based off your experience and knowledge, how long would you give yourself? Or would you be like, I'll give myself a month before I tweak something, I'll give myself 2 months before I tweak, and 6 months overall, or a year overall? What would you say?
I would say I would probably give at least 6 months overall, but after a month or two, if you're not seeing results, you can start tweaking things and seeing what you can do. But I think also at the time, I always thought it would be like better to cover as many people as possible, right? Get the most impressions. So I would do something over here, over there. But I eventually learned that it's actually better to cover like a smaller farm area and then hit them from different angles. So maybe you do postcards in a small neighborhood, and then you also door knock them, you buy the bus bench in that neighborhood, or you buy the grocery cart ad in that neighborhood, so that those people, they keep seeing you everywhere they go. And they have to see you like five, 6 times before they remember you.
Please tell me you've seen that movie, I Love You, Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Like, the guy has his face on the urinals, on the urinal cake. So he's like, people come in and piss on my face. Like, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
That might not be the most effective one, but then those billboards that, what's his name? Paul Rudd had, that's creative right there. So
exactly.
7 years later, what does your marketing strategy look like now?
I still do a lot of social media. So I do Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that. WeChat for Chinese people. I still do farming. I farm a couple of different neighborhoods, and I hit them at least once or twice a month. So it's all about consistency. And, it's funny, like some months, I'll go like 3 or 4 months without getting any calls from the postcards. And then last month I got like 5 calls. So, and then it's just random. Real estate is seasonal. Sometimes, a lot of people are starting to think about listing their homes in March, but they've been seeing my postcards for months or years. And sometimes I go to listing appointments and they save all of them. They have like a stack of all my postcards. And I'm like, wow, not everyone is throwing them in the trash. So I do that still. I'm not a big door knocker and cold caller, but I have a lot of colleagues that's like all they do. So, that's a very cheap way to get started. You don't have to spend money, but it's very time consuming. But you have same thing. It's all about hitting as many doors as you can. So I have colleagues that go for like 2 hours a day, and they're consistent about it. It's all about consistency and keeping at what you're doing. Very
nice. So where you're at now, where do you think you're going to be going with yourself and your business in the next couple of years? What's your goal?
Yeah, I'm getting to the point where I'm probably going to start building a team. I'm not sure how exactly I want to format that team yet. I'm kind of working on that, but that's basically it. It's at a certain point, I can't really expand too much more by myself.
Okay. So you're going to get the team eventually, but actually I want to backtrack, because a lot of viewers are first-time realtors. They're just getting their license, and they're like, all right, well, I'm going to have to market. I'm going to have to be patient. I don't want to be patient. I don't want to market. I just want to get these great, amazing listings now. But what can speed them up? Like, what have you learned that if you went back would have made your progress a bit quicker?
Yeah. So when I first started getting listing appointments, I was so excited. Oh my God, I'm finally good enough to get listing appointments. I would go to them by myself, and then, I would pretty much never get them. I would get like 1 out of 10. Right. And I'm like, what's going on? Why am I'm getting all these opportunities and I'm losing them because, I had no experience. So the sellers, I wasn't presenting the right way, and I didn't have the listing presentation the right way. And also the sellers would ask me, have you sold anything in the neighborhood? And I'd be like, no, so it's like,
not at all.
How are you supposed to get, not really. So
but you could be the first.
Yeah, exactly. So then eventually I started teaming up with bigger agents in the neighborhood, right? Because I have the lead already. So obviously they'd be interested in coming with me. And then I would just split the listing with them, and then I get half. And then I would learn how they present their listing presentation. And then, you know, obviously after you start doing some sales and you do have experience in the neighborhood. So I think that's a great way to get started. When you're not, maybe you're on your own and you're not joining, like if you're on a team, then obviously you have a team leader. But if you're on your own and you're getting started and you're new, when you're going after listings, I think it's a great idea to bring someone experienced in the area with you, because, you know, getting half of the listing is better than getting none of it. And there's a lot to learn from an experienced agent.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're brand new in anything. If you can get 50%
Right.
of something, it's better than 0 or 100% of nothing. I think that's the quote.
Exactly.
But if you have the time and you can get the listings, but you can't close, then share it with someone else that has that strength, and they can close.
Exactly.
And you could split it, and then you could learn what they're doing, and then you can eventually be on your own. But yeah, I think everyone wants that, is so greedy. They want that whole commission for themselves. Yeah. And of course you see it, but you also have to have that self-awareness to know that, you know what, it's better to take care of this client with twice the power and really get it done and get that word of mouth referral for next time, because next time you'll have the tools in your arsenal to be able to close on your own. Let me ask you something. What's a good software or tool, or obviously Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn has been very powerful for you. Is there any other program, training, something like that that's really elevated your game?
I'm part of a lot of different networks. So I'm part of the National Association of Realtors 30 Under 30 network, and I'm also part of the Asian Real Estate Association of America. And they throw a lot of like seminars and masterminds and things like that, where, you know, agents present about certain topics, or we share ideas with each other from, you know, it's great because they're from all over the country. So you're not scared to share your ideas with them, and, you know, you get referrals from it. So I learned a lot from that. I personally haven't done it, but I know a lot of agents do coaching and mentoring, just because real estate is all about accountability. So you have to be really accountable for your own time, right? We're not submitting a timesheet to our boss every day on what we're doing. So it's super easy to just like let the day go by and barely accomplish anything. So if you're able to stay on top of yourself and make yourself a schedule and be accountable for your time, then that's great. But if you're not, a lot of people find it really useful to have like a mentor or a coach that they checks in with them once or twice a week, and, you know, it grills them. Have you done this week? Have you done this? And I've had a lot of agent friends that have been very successful with that. And then I think also having a really good CRM is really important. There's all kinds of CRMs that you can use, that some of them are very simple, that just remind you of, you know, the leads that you're working with and when to touch base. Some of them incorporate the email blasts and video text and everything like that in them. So that's also helpful as well.
Do you have any CRM companies or softwares that you recommend?
Yeah, so LionDesk is cool because they incorporate like video texting and things like that. There's Boomtown. Boomtown even has like lead gen offered as part of it as well. There's Contactually. A lot of people used to like that, although they just got bought by Compass. So everyone's like worried about the data.
Oh crap! Is that why everyone's going
stolen? I don't know, but
Okay, so let's close off with something. I want to give new realtors some hope that it's not too late, that they will actually find success if they put in the work. If you were going back to day one, knowing exactly what you know now, without the knowledge, the experience, but you know how it works, and this is day one after getting your license, what would you do?
That's a good question. I feel like I sort of already answered it, but I think the main thing is like just choose. I think you can try out different types of prospecting and marketing, but first of all, pick a few that you like, because if you don't like doing it, then you're not going to do it, right? After you pick a couple that you like, stick to it and keep doing it and continue doing it until it works, because it will work eventually, but you can't give up. And then I had something else I wanted to say, but I sort of forgot now.
All
Maybe
good.
I'll think of it in a second.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, is there any final words, any bits of advice that either you've gotten from a mentor or you wish you would have known, or it's just underrated? It's advice that you know it's true now, but people didn't really hammer on it the way that you felt like it deserves to give to new realtors.
I think that you have to, this is good advice. When you start doing a few, like maybe you'll get like one or two of your first deals, and then you start getting obsessed with, you know, closing. Obviously you want to be able to close the deal, but you get like really caught up in the transaction and the paperwork and hand holding that particular client that you may forget to prospect while you're in escrow on a couple of deals. But if you don't continue prospecting, as soon as those deals close, you'll have no business anymore. So I think as a realtor, like sometimes, for example, I have a transaction coordinator that takes care of a lot of paperwork for me, and, you know, costs a few $100s per transaction. It's totally worth it because it saves me so much time, and I can continue prospecting and looking for new clients. And I think that building your pipeline for the future is like really hard to focus on when you're a new agent, because you're so excited about the current deal that you have, but you can't get too caught up with it. You have to look to the future always.
Okay, so always keep your pipeline full of new prospects, regardless if you're working with one client or 50 clients, because it is seasonal. There will be a time when you will wish you had that pipeline. And of course, if you can't work with everyone, you could always refer them to other quality agents and get referral fees. And as long as they're taken care of, it's always a good problem to have too many clients than not enough, correct?
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jamie Tian of Rodeo Realty, Beverly Hills, California. If you're looking for anything in California, but especially luxury, I think that's your niche. Is it not luxury, or is this anything that's nice?
Actually, I literally do all price ranges. So right now I have listings ranging from $450,000 all the way up to $18.5 million. So I literally service everyone.
So in Nebraska, that's luxury to super, super luxury. In LA, that's actually just entry level to really high luxury. But anyway, give Jamie an email. The details are below, and join us in our next episode where Jamie dives into, what are you going to dive into?
I don't know yet.
All right, it's a surprise. It's a surprise. Click next, watch the next video, and talk to you later.